our ego mind is here to help us navigate the physical plane amidst all this metaphysical data that's actually going on to help keep us safe.
Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. And welcome everybody to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. I am so grateful to have you here on the top 2% of the world podcast, top 100 spiritual podcasts, according to the Feed Spot. And we've got another amazing spiritual rock star, maybe one of my best guests of all time. Now, she has been on in the past, and Dr. Alison J. And I've been working on her behalf. I've been working together with her for a while now. And it's because she is so sincere, so wonderful. Like she so cares about getting it right, like being precise, being on top of things like manifestation. Like let's get down to the absolutes of how it all really works with our energy, the subtle energy system, and connecting with the higher self, etc. All these things, so many things we're going to get into today because it's not just like the LOA, basics, right? Like that's all. Just think it, imagine it's just happening, and that's all we need to know. And we're taking this to a whole other level of upgrade today to help you, especially for those of you that feel maybe constipated with manifestation or maybe burned out on manifestation, all those sorts of things. So can't wait to get into it. It's such a pleasure to have you here today, Dr. Allison.
Oh my God, let's play. I'm so happy to play with you again, Dan. As always, happy to play with you. Can I just tell you
Right.
while we were doing a little bit of show and tell before with our crystals?
Yeah, go
He's
ahead.
like, well, I got this tiger's eye. And I'm like, well, I got this rose quartz. So it was like show and tell of what was on our
Yeah, right,
desks right before we start.
right.
So get ready to buckle up and have some fun with us. We're going to play more than be all serious.
I love the rose quartz. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so by illuminating the intricacies of the science behind our subtle energy system, which, again, she has been recognized by people like Dr. Bruce Lipton and Michael Beckwith, etc., for her expertise with the subtle energy system, etc. And it's okay. So by illuminating the intricacies of the science behind our subtle energy system and its connection to consciousness, Dr. K empowers individuals and actually applies this science to shift people so that they transcend self-blocking, limiting beliefs and patterns, and recondition their self-talk and neurologies so that a more expansive viewpoint, more aligned with their higher self and heart, is their new version of themselves, where they're willing to be more, ask more, ask more. I love that, right? Ask more and live more in a state of thriving. This is key due to this being such an intense yet auspicious time right now. These are auspicious times as it's known to be the era of humanity's transformative awakening, considered our greatest evolutionary leap from 2012 to 2032. Her work resonates with those eager to harness ancient wisdom, and she's just a master of weaving the spiritual and the material together for greater success in today's times. And that's what we're going to get into. She's got best-selling books. She's got, she's an award-winning business. She's got it all, So so we'll leave it at that for now, so we can dive into the interview. So, Dr. Allison, yeah, one of the things I really appreciate again for you, often we talk about how you've spent all this time in different cultures and whatnot, especially out in the East and whatnot, and absorbing the energy of living in those cultures on top of, bringing in new information that people, Westerners aren't hearing all the time or maybe never get, but the way you got it, by being over there and learning from other spiritual gurus, masters, etc. And what you gain from that, how you weave that with everything here, and then on top of that, I just have to brag on you, but like how brilliant you are. I mean that you're one of those people like, well, I'm a straight A, so you're like I'm a straight A plus student. Like in other words, not out of ego, but like that you're really a brilliant person and really smart. So you're really utilize that ability to have these gifts, the intuitive, the intellectual, be able to combine all these gifts to be able to help people and to understand things in ways that other people haven't studied, number one. Number two, haven't been able to put together the way you can because of your brilliance. So I just bragging on you right now, and I
Right.
just wanted to recognize that in you. Um, so what
Appreciate
is
that.
it that, yeah. So I mean, it's so important right now because there's so much basic information that keeps being thrown out there. Like I was telling you, this reel I saw last night, like I see them all the time. It's not really that unusual. Like I
Right.
literally manifest whatever I want, every single thing, and all the time. And
The
I hear
snap of my
that from,
finger.
and I actually did this. It's so funny you did the finger because that's what I did afterwards. I was like, yes, of course we could set intention and say with the snap of a finger everything's happening. Like sure. And then the more people hear that, right, that gets to the subconscious. Now people are thinking everything. They're thinking, yeah, Daniel says everything's happening right now for me, right? So like we're bringing that in. There's all kinds of stuff we know. That's all the basics, though. We're going to go in deeper. So, what is it that people are missing? People often feel like there must be missing something in manifestation sometimes. People are being more honest, I think, but also people who are really feeling like they're struggling with manifestation. Can we dive into that? Like, what
Yeah.
is it that you feel are some of those missing elements while you kind of talk about, how you know about all this stuff? I previewed it a little bit.
All right. So here we go. And it's interesting because I'm gonna start. Please bear with me, y'all.
So go ahead, do it. Do it.
So I spent 10 years in Asia, and that was after being a meditator for 7 years, an energy medicine professional for five. I already doing yoga. I wasn't yet a yoga teacher. I went to India and got certified in that. I was based in Taiwan with the traditional Chinese culture. And I more than worked with gurus. I pieced this stuff together myself based on what I had already been doing with the law of attraction and manifesting. I actually, in the classroom, I don't know if you know this, Daniel, in the classroom, I actually taught the secret, the movie, The Secret. I wormed it in because
You did. I think I did know that. Yeah.
y- I was doing a unit on the transcendentalists in America and American lit. And so Emerson's quoted in The Secret. So I worked it in.
There you go.
So, and then I also, I'm not going to go down that tread. What I want to get at is the process of meditation. Really helps us call our ego mind on its game. And so learning that about my own mind and then like within a year teaching people meditation and then with the background I had in psychology and then creating the courses later that combined East and Western psychology really has given me this opportunity to understand like my first signature talk was called The Nature of the Mind. So what I'm getting at is the biggest F up that people do with manifesting is that they're still coming from the ego mind. I do not mean ego. I mean ego mind. So there's aspects and traits of the way our minds work, all of our minds
Well,
work.
can we pause there because I do want
Yeah.
to have you teach us on that. So, what's the differentiation between people who say, "Oh, it's your ego," and you say, and then there's ego mind, and you made a differentiation. So, tell us what's the difference.
So ego mind is a term from Buddhist meditation. And it's the ego overall is different. It's a structure. That word ego is a structure from the Western approach. And I mean, even if you think of my favorite in the psych field of Western psych, Carl Jung, he studied
Hmm.
over in the East. He studied the I Ching. He was very much influenced by the Eastern
Hmm.
philosophies. So the egoic structure is a way that we refer to it in the West. Ego mind is recognizing, you can see implied in understanding of there being a higher self, which is the yogic culture, the yogic teachings. So the ego mind is the part of our mind that is more driven by what people point to and say, Daniel's like that, Allison's like that, the personality level self. And so
Hmm.
there are also in the teachings of like I was really surprised when I used to go there was this great path I used to run on behind a monastery where I lived, the town I lived in Taiwan. And I would stop and talk. A lot of the times I would use this for my Saturday run because it took me more time to get there. And I would stop and talk with the monks, and I would go all over visiting monasteries, both in Thailand on my Chinese New Year holidays, because I always went back to Thailand because it's so great, and Taiwan itself. And there were, what surprised me was there were more classrooms than there were like a meditation hall. I expected the exact opposite. So I made inquiries about why is that the case, and it's because there's so much conversation about the Yogic Sutras, about the Buddhist canon that talks about the nature of the mind and its impact in our self-talk and then our lives. So the ego mind is different than the ego because it's identifying functions in the mind that are everybody's same. It shows up differently, but the overall structure of the ego mind is the same for everybody, meaning that when we have our five physical senses picked up something in the environment, it has to go through the files, our ego mind, because our ego mind is here to help us navigate the physical plane amidst all this metaphysical data that's actually going on to help keep us safe. Yeah. So as we're navigating the physical plane and five physical senses pick up a stimuli, the ego mind files through its files, right? To label, to project out a label. And we don't observe this happening unless we're really conscious. And so all of our storylines and our past experiences, because the ego mind cannot understand something it hasn't yet experienced. It only goes based on the past. So if I'm in Asia, this actually happened. My buddy and I were at a fruit market. We saw a new kind of fruit. And what I saw us do, knowing this, so I was able to observe it. What I saw us do was, well, that looks like a pear. So our files went to what we recognize close to it. And then we're like, okay, well, we're in Asia, Asian pear. And then we're like, oh, I get it. You know, because have you heard of the fruit Asian pear before?
Heard of it, yeah.
Yeah. So we watched ourselves, I observed us doing that. So the ego is different than the ego mind because it brings in more tools, I feel like, to be able to understand the nature of how our minds work, and then therefore how our consciousness works, and then therefore how to have better self-management and how to be able to detach from the old storylines to a degree. That's then when I bring in the energy medicine to speed up the results of meditation, so
Mhm,
that my clients have increasingly more detachment from the parts of their mind that's producing thoughts from their personality level self or
mhm,
inherent to the ego mind itself. So
mhm,
they can detach more easily because I come in and cut that mind body connection with the clearings and activations I do. And increasingly, they have more ability to pull off of the old neurological path and go on, and a new one is created because I give them the redirect. So by approaching from ego mind, there's a lot more tools with which to work with to create your consciousness and rearrange it in a more elevated, advanced way. When we talk about the ego, it's thrown around there so much right now. I don't think a lot of people understand what we're talking about when we're talking about ego. It's just thrown around. I
mhm,
think a person who's been in this field for a while understand. And when I say field, I mean the spiritual industry that it's become nowadays, the self-development,
mhm,
personal development, transformative, all of that, new age, new thought.
mhm,
The idea of, well, my ego is interfering. Your ego is an aid. The ego is an aid. So I can't take somebody down the path of going deeper. So my signature program, as you know, Daniel, is magic manifestation and money flow. And then a select small percentage of those people, when we're in agreement, they enter my higher, most advanced program, mastermind. And when they're in the it's only when they're in their mastermind level that I can start to help them identify some of these nuances more, because there is just so much noise about how to approach manifestation and what the ego is. This industry it's become, there is so much misinformation that and even around the law of attraction and manifestation, somebody learns about it. What's the most innate thing? You learn something new that helps you and you want to share it. So there's all these sharers, and God bless them, but they're out there talking way too soon before they know enough. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of misunderstanding that I feel like that go alongside with you asking the question of, well, what's the ego? The ego is here to help us navigate the physical plane. And the only way I can, and this is an interesting twist that I think you're going to appreciate, when somebody does work at that more advanced level with me, they have to have a strong egoic identity in order to handle the dismantling of the limiting parts of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A
Right.
healthy ego in
Mm-hmm.
order to in order to handle, and I help them with this obviously, and stabilize in the dismantling of the parts of themselves that has been a part of their personality level self or their ego
Mm-hmm.
that is limiting them. But I approach it from more the perspective of the ego mind. So somebody who's shaky in their identity, they have a
Mm-hmm.
harder time stabilizing as we're clearing out the parts of themselves they've gotten, so accustomed to being in this habit of giving to others more than they allow themselves space to take care of themselves. So they
Mm-hmm.
just think that's a part of themselves. People will point to the person and say, yeah, she's a great giver. So it's a personality level self, and so people will throw around that label of ego, but there's
Mm-hmm.
reasons why that person is choosing to give more than receive, and then working on the ego mind and all the different aspects like clear and a clearing and activation enables me to get under why they're overgiving and why they're
Mm-hmm.
not engaged in self-care, as it also relates to the subtle energy system or the chakras. So that dismantling of what in the mass consciousness people would just point to and say that's her personality or that's her ego. It's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's something that can be
Yeah.
unlearned. And in fact,
Right.
the process of evolution and going higher, evolving, progressing, transforming is dismantling those old parts that people will point to and say, that's just how you are. Or I
Mm-hmm.
even had one masterminder say something like, it's out of character for me to choose that way, Allison, when she was being approached with offered a new way of choosing and
Mm-hmm.
perceiving how she looked at herself in a certain context. And I'm like, that's exactly what we're doing.
Do you want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free meditate, make money meditation today.
We're taking you out of character so that you
Right.
can evolve and grow and
I mean, if you stay in the same way, you're not going to see a change, right? To say right. I mean, that's how I see it. Right. Everybody talks about patterns, and we're in these patterns, right? So you stay in the same pattern of choosing or energy or however you want to look at it, like you're just going to keep having the same kind of Groundhog Day, right? Basically, more or less. Um, so okay, cool. I mean, yeah, because I mean, I don't differentiate because I'm not like that precise with my language. Like, okay, this is ego mind, this is ego, and I was,
I
but
don't say it's ego either, by the way.
you don't say it's ego. You
I
said,
don't
yeah,
ever
you
use
say
that
ego
term.
mind, right? Yeah. No, I'm saying I am not that precise. I said I am not that precise. And but I think it's good because yeah, psychology, when I was taught psychology, because that's my background, and like yeah, the ego wasn't demonized. If anything, the super ego and the id was what was vilified. Like the
Yeah.
super ego is gonna parent you too much. The id's too out of control, and the ego needs to control it all and somehow or manage that all, and something like that, something like that. And but
Like a
yeah,
monster under the bed. That was the presentation. Because in case you guys didn't catch it, I was also a psych major for my bachelor's. And
yeah,
3 semesters
yeah,
in, I left
yeah.
it because I was like, you are not answering the question of how do I be the happiest, most thriving version of myself and help others do
Right,
that. So I've been looking at the
right.
holistic model on how do we become most thriving, happiest versions of ourselves ever since. And what you're talking about, I mean, that approach. My first book being the title, "What if there's nothing wrong?" And if you contrast that against the thickest textbook in our medical canon in America is the list of mental diagnoses for psychology.
Got it right over here, right? Yeah. From my old days, the big old thing. It said, memorize this. This is all you need to really know. No, I'm
And that
joking,
makes
but
you, but that makes you feel
they made me
victim.
memorize it. Basically, they
No.
wanted me to memorize as best as possible. know
Yeah.
everything on the moment's notice.
Yeah, and there's no way. What is the
Right.
number? I don't even remember the number. What, how
Hundreds of pages. I don't remember.
like
Yeah.
800. So yeah, I mean, it's when they approach it that way, you need an expert to give you medication. When we
Right.
approach it from the way of the ego mind, the basic perspective, the basic tenet in Buddhist meditation is every human mind is neurotic. Here are the tools with which to work with your own particular flavor of neuroses. And
Mhm.
so dismantling the way that I'm talking about is it's from an approach of there's nothing wrong. This is how I evolve. This is what we're
Mhm.
on the planet to do.
Right.
Instead of that
Right.
like monster under the bed thing of
Right.
like, ah, that we teach in the West.
We must kill that thing in there.
Be
Yes.
afraid. Ah.
There's monsters everywhere. And only this whatever. You got to find the hero, right? I don't know, but hero villain paradigm, right? Um, yeah, I mean, what really hit for me is from spiritual teaching, a lot of times they'll talk about ego, yeah, ego mind versus like clear mind, right? Like so you're clear mind is good, ego mind not good. kind of idea sometimes. The ego mind is with all attached. I mean, we all, I mean, I know like you've told me like I just be direct, like you said, like I don't think I have so much ego mind anymore, but I have a personality. But don't we all? This is where I always like call this one out. I'm gonna call it out. Like I said, I do challenge people on the show, Dr. Allison, everybody.
No,
But
I have
anyway,
no
I
idea you
feel
like
like we
that.
all have ego mind. Even the people are like they look
That's what
like
I'm
they're
saying.
meaning,
Everybody has ego
right?
mind.
Exactly, right?
But Daniel, what I mean is that I have done so much work on
Right,
observing
right,
it and clearing it
right, right.
that it's disciplined, it's
Very,
managed now.
yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, got it. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, mine definitely gets out of control here and there, but then again, I feel like I'm at another level than the average person for sure. I
Yes.
mean, so I mean, because I go unconscious for whatever amount of time, like okay, whatever, a few minutes, even maybe a few hours, sometimes here and there. But then all of a sudden, even within those times, I'm still observing. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is my stuff, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like you know it right away, like so. So then you're able to, use the tools you already know to address it, right? Um, but what is the mistake people making with that? Like, do they not even notice like their ego mind is like what's kind of messing with them? And tell us more. What is this ego mind? How is it messing with our manifestation powers?
So their approach, so to answer your very first question, why I brought all of that up was because there's too much mind still involved. They
Yeah.
haven't done enough purification. So they're
Yeah.
approaching manifestation from this more egoic perspective. So
Mhm.
what I mean by egoic, I mean you're not connected enough to a higher power
Yeah.
within you and above you. Because the more purification we do of our ego mind, which comes from our conditioning, which comes from our parents, which comes from traumas, which comes from all sorts of different sources that I put in a clearing and activation in, or if I'm in a hands-on session or a distant session, so the light comes in to the subtle energy system and it gets uh, transmuted. The idea that they're not purifying enough. It's so funny because I really hesitated on using the wording purify when I started using it, and I didn't start using it till like after 2016, maybe even later, because I felt like it turned too many egos off because it made people really perceive at that point there's work to be done, and there is work to be done. Hey, I mean, there
Mhm.
just is. And
Right.
nowadays people know that. So I can use the word purification with greater ease.
Mhm.
So when they're approaching manifesting, like I have elevated the whole term manifesting into co-creation. And the term yoga from Sanskrit to English actually means to yoke with the divine. But it
Mhm.
also means to yoke with your higher self. And now I'm pointing to the crown chakra. But then there's those chakras above that increasingly are more and more connected to the divine. So the more that you
Mhm.
make room to not just think the same habitual self talk, not let the ego mind run the monkey mind like it's a dog on a leash and you're being run by the dog, instead of a dog on a lead, and you are
Mhm.
walking the dog, and the dog knows when to stop, the dog knows when to it can walk. That's the difference. And so when somebody is coming at manifestation and their mind is still completely of their upbringing and of their everyday 3D life, and they've done very little work on self management or on redirecting to create newer self talk, more upgraded and updated self talk, and more higher self is present, then they just think that this is supposed to, they hear it from it being the LOA and the manifestation basics, they hear it from an egoic 3D perspective, like we got taught growing up. You have to get an education. That means a college degree. When you get out, you need to probably find your husband or your spouse in that college program. And then when you get out, you're probably going to need to get a master's. You need to get a job. You need to have a home. You need to have a house. You need to have 2 kids. That programming, that is what a lot of us grow up with and then still live in. So then we're raising our kids, we're busy, we're stressed, we're strained, we got a lot to do, and we've got we got to drop them here, we got to drive them here, we got to attend parent teacher conferences. All that busyness keeps you locked into the physical 3D world, doing it like everybody else is. And what I'm saying
Mhm.
is, when approaching manifestation from that more surface level without having the internal work done, you
Yeah.
don't have the anchoring in the connection that actually brings in the manifestation results you're desiring. You don't have the juice yet. You don't have the connection yet to wield the energy that actually is what creates manifesting. It's the co-creation. It's that alignment with something higher than just your everyday thinking without ever doing any work on your self-talk or on your thought patterns, and creating from thinking that you can use the law of attraction. If I just, like you were joking, if I just visualize this enough and see myself with this outcome, it'll happen. Fuck no. Excuse my language, but fuck no. It doesn't work that way. And affirmations don't even work, because if so, I'm not going to look in a mirror and say I am blonde, because I am. If I'm poor,
Right.
I'm not going to look. If I'm rich, I'm not going to look in a mirror and go, I'm rich. I mean, I might if I haven't done any work on my ego mind. But the point being is that affirmations, when somebody uses them, they just catalyze what you don't believe. You have to be way down the line to actually have an affirmation work. When you say something like, I
Yeah.
am lovable, and you don't believe it, all it's doing is calling up the subconscious and unconscious,
Yeah.
like, no, you don't. No,
Yeah.
you don't. And it's an energy, which is our first language,
Right.
right? So there's all this misunderstanding because marketing has become a part of this industry. And so we're doing it in 180 characters or in quick blurbs or reels. And so people are picking up on this and that, and they like the idea, and they don't do any of the internal work, or they do very little of the internal work, or they find coaches that stay at the superficial level, where it's
Mhm.
still about the superficial life and it's not also bringing in the internal then applied to the physical life, because I am all about
Mhm.
getting the results into your physical life. I'm not about like meditating and going om and like all of that. I'm about doing the appropriate work that works, so you shift internally, because everything that's going on internally is what, not everything, 90-ish%, because there's karma and there's randomness. So the majority of what we're seeing show up in our physical life is coming from our projection of our expectations. We're just a bunch of projectors on a neck.
Yeah. 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 I largely agree with that part. I mean, that part's 100%. Yeah, that's what's going on, right? And I mean, it's so interesting. I mean, the yeah, it is interesting because we have all these experiences we've had through incarnations too, right? So we've had past lives and all that stuff. So when people come to you, you're like, I think I have a past life that might be getting in my way and everything. Based on your definition of ego mind, is that part of the ego mind, or is that the back of the house consciousness more so, or trying to get these terms straight? But like, what is that really like? Because I believe in that. I believe there's energies I'm suppressing to this day still, because we're all in motion still, but there's energies I still suppress from past lives that maybe are the monsters. I feel like you've seen it before, like. They're like is that the monster that just came out? Right? Because we've had a close relationship. So, and there's all kinds of lovely experiences too. So people don't think it's kind of really weird, but like,
Yep.
whatever, this thing comes out and it's things. It's like those places where we've been hurt before. All of a sudden, like something comes up. And that could get in the way of lots of stuff. And, or that it's no, you go submissive, right? This is how we stay safe. This is how we
Yep.
get through. And I hope I love myself. I am safe, and like you don't feel safe whatsoever, right? So you keep affirming. So I know what you're saying. If you're not changing the frequency, um, which is really hard for most people to do, like you said, if they haven't advanced their attunement, their level of attunement, overall attunement, it's hard to feel the connected energy of "I love you," right? I mean, it's just like you said, like the
There's
reflection
still
is
too much
no, and it
physicalizing
just
your
like
mind.
makes it even worse, maybe for some people.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you just brought in the concept that I came up with, back of the house consciousness.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so
mhm,
that's the unconscious and subconscious, for those of you who
mhm,
haven't heard that term
mhm,
yet. And it's
mhm,
not in any books other than the ones I've written. To distinguish between your frontal lobe, which is your more mature, and it doesn't happen until the 20s. That's why teens are so reactive. This is
mhm,
the last part to develop. It's your frontal lobe. That is the emotional management center. But it's also where your daily consciousness exists. And so check this out. Uh, the stats are like 85% of where we make our daily choices are from our subconscious and unconscious. And from the work I have done all these decades on others and myself, I see it's not myself in this inclusion, because I make really weird choices that are just other people wouldn't make. Um,
mhm,
Typically, and so 95% is more appropriate, I think, that people are making their daily choices of what you create in your life, what you focus on, what you do, what you occupies your 24-hour days, from their back of the house consciousness. We are that robotic. So what I'm getting at is, by clearing out more of what's in the back of the house consciousness, meaning it's not the self-talk you hear. You're only hearing 5 to 15% of what you actually believe. And then from that self-talk, you're thinking that's all of you. So then there's all this other part of you in the unconscious and subconscious, and that's where karma goes. And that's where it's in part where I can access past life occurrences. I also do it through the subtle energy system. This isn't the show to talk about that. So
mhm,
what I see is, if somebody has a past life, I'll use a really common one that I get all the time. You'll recognize this, especially for the masterminders. If I start talking to them on the interview call I do as they're completing my signature program, Magic Manifestation and Money Flow, to see, because it's already been a resonance, I've identified certain aspects of them, and we're on a call to see if it's totally organic. And both of us are in agreement, once they learn more about the mastermind, if they need to invite them in. A lot of the times there is something to do, because their first level retreats take place in the heart chakra of the planet, Glastonbury, England, with having been killed, hung, punished, guillotined for having spoken truth to power before, or having been a witch, or having been a herbalist or a healer or
mhm,
Galileo, some version of that. That there is something really profound about the experience I walk people through in Glastonbury, that I can see the match energetically. So I do certain things at that level to catalyze more of their unconscious and subconscious suppressed memories, that includes karma
mhm,
in past lives, that when they're ready, when their egoic structure is, I've worked at some of the stuff above it, some of the beliefs above it that are unconscious and subconscious, where they might show up as like, I don't deserve no, I need to hide, because if I step out more and let more people see me, somehow I'm going to end up punished. Or somehow
mhm,
there's going to be some problem for me to deal with. So they'll not post on social media, even though they just had a they just published their first book, and they know they're supposed to be posting on social media. I'm using an example of actually somebody in 3M. And many
mhm,
examples of people hiding and not opening up in their receptivity, uh, because they feel like if they stay safe, then they can handle
mhm,
what comes their way. But if they increase their receptivity, then they're going to somehow be attacked. And that has a
mhm,
resonance from the past life and karmic experience. So I can't go right at that one, because it'll dismantle the person too much. So we
Right.
go above them to some of the beliefs I just gave an example of. Like I would do a clearing on it's safe for me to open more. And then down the it's safe for me to come out of hiding and then continue down the path as they're being shifted in their neurology to have new thought forms going down a new
Mhm.
neurological pathway. So what I'm getting at is yes, I am working on past life stuff and karmic stuff that I could get right away. Like the
Mhm.
first time I talk to the person, a lot of the time, the majority, I am getting their core pattern right away. Not all the time, but most of the time. And so I will be working towards that and it's not like I'm thinking all consciously, okay, strategy wise, I think I need to first start with this. It's what gets
Yeah.
presented to me because it's part of like, a soccer player being a kick ass soccer player. He's used his body, his
Mhm.
legs, his quads, his hamstrings, his glutes that way. And they're really ready to kick. He has a great kick or she has a fantastic kick. So I'm like that,
Mhm.
but just it's more like I'm like an instrument of clearings and intuitive hawk eyes to understand, to just
Mhm.
receive basically what a person's putting in front of me, what is going to help them first. Because the light has an intelligence of its own. And in
Mhm.
that intelligence, it prioritizes. So
Mhm.
I get shown my positioning is I'm serving people to get to a higher level of thriving. I'm helping elevate and upgrade so that our collective upgrades in these times of 2012 to 2032. Person gets put in front of me as a client, I will get shown possibly their core pattern, and then I'll wait and I might even ask, and then I'll get shown where to start.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
does that answer your question about what happens with past life? Oh, wait, let me finish this. So
Yeah.
it creates a kind of resonance. So even though you don't maybe consciously know, and maybe you do consciously know you've been hung or guillotined or burned at the stake before, um, not many people I have found can actually clear that in a way that
Mhm.
actually allows for new choices to get made. And I say that because of so many hundreds of people, might even be in the thousands by now, saying to me, I worked on this for how many years and I've never been able to get it cleared. You're the one, Dr. Allison, that got it cleared. So,
Right.
yeah, we have, so in that implication is there has to be a certain level of depth that we're working at. So that was a
Mhm.
great question you asked, Jenna. I don't mean to be pedantic, but it was because you knew like there's more echoing in the back, beyond the ego mind. So if I have a past life memory of having been punished,
Mhm.
then I'm going to have certain choices not be where I'm headed. It's going to influence the little bit of self talk comparatively that I do hear
Mhm.
to make me hide. So I'm not going to hear most likely the past life and karmic blockages. And even if I do, I'm not going to know how to like choose beyond that. I'm going to be geared towards
Mhm.
reactivity in my choices and in my creation of my life to you to that limitation. And I'll
Mhm.
create my
Mhm.
life around those limitations.
So like the ego mind's like more of a it's how I look at it, right or wrong, but it's just a
Go
fun way
for
to
it.
look at it. But like it's like sort of like your surface awareness, right? Like, okay, I'm kind of aware. Like I don't know, this doesn't seem safe, and you have no idea. It's like, yeah, because you were burned at the stake, that's why you don't feel you could be a healer or whatever, like, something
Yeah.
like that, right? But surface mind just says, I don't know, it just doesn't feel safe, it's too woo, it's this or that, whatever.
Yeah.
That's surface mind. That's might be, and then you could call that ego mind. But in the back of the house consciousness, as you put it, it's like you're gonna die because of this happened, right? And it's keeping you, pulling you back. And those are the things that a lot of people aren't, aware of those things. And if even if you are, like a lot of times, you said, you don't know how to clear it on your own. You've done thousands of
Hell no,
clearings
you can't clear it on
yourself.
your own.
Right.
You
You can't
really
clear
clear it
it
on
on
your
your
own.
own. You go to healers and maybe you thought you cleared it, right? Like, oh, I thought it was clear, and then it was back, and all this thing. So that
Yes.
happens a lot of times. So what I just want to highlight this about you is
Thank you.
you do have, like I do the energy scanning and stuff, and then have your natural gifts and abilities to be able to just pick up on stuff. I remember one time I was on, I mean, a very, I should know, I train people on how to harness the gift. I mean, so when I was in one of your groups, and it was just something really basic, but like it was really, but it showed me your precision. You're like, I don't know what you said, or something like, I noticed something there on your shoulder over there, or this or that, whatever. Like to me, whatever it was you said, I forget the specific, but it was something really like more precise, and like not like some big pattern or something. It's just like this precise little thing or whatever, but it was significant or
Right?
whatever type of thing. And it's just like I'm like I'm like, that's really good. She's really good. She's showing me she's the real deal with that Hawkeyes thing there. So I just want to let you guys know, like when I've helped with the marketing and stuff with Allison's business, and one of the things we came up with to deepen that more, and really she came up with it, but we kept hitting on it a lot, is
Yeah.
that she gets to these hidden blocks with her Hawkeyes. And it is so true. Like because she's not just seeing like, oh yeah, you're hung, right? But then she's seeing so much more, So I think that's what's
You
important too.
suck.
She sees a lot more than that, right? So, and then she knows how to work with it and in a really
That's the
intimate
key,
way.
hey?
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
that the key? Because
yeah.
I see also all of these people who go to readers and psychics and they get
Mhm,
told this shattering thing about a past life, and then they're
mhm,
left like mildly traumatized to heavily
mhm,
traumatized, coming into work
mhm.
with me, telling me about their traumatization from this reader in the
Yeah.
information. So it's
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of play that's happening in this field now because of all of how we've developed with social media, YouTube videos, everything. So I just really want people to be a bit more tuning in, like you teach people to do, tuning in. And I mean, we could go down this whole, we could have one whole radio show on what we've talked about with how people nowadays seem to be tuning in and feeling their intuitive responses, and they use it as an excuse when it's not an accurate intuitive response, when they recognize
Mhm.
they're afraid of stepping into doing this work because they
Mhm.
don't, because that's a natural response of the ego mind. The ego mind is like everything else, it fights for its survival, right? So if
Yeah.
you're being approached, if you're approaching an energetic that is going to help you move beyond that habit pattern, the ego mind is naturally going to put a brake on it. And it might show up as, no, don't book that call. No, don't work with her. No, don't do because or work with him, because the ego
Right.
mind is afraid of dying, because you're going to get more soulful and less ego oriented. So if you're not feeling a sense of challenge when you join a program, then that
Mhm.
means you're not probably going to grow. So
Yeah.
I know that the manifesting aspect, it's not about manifesting anymore. It's about co-creation. And I sat in this question for so long and I still don't have an answer to it. I remember this one guy, he came into magic manifestation and money flow and in the mastermind. He was over in Glastonbury. He's in the picture on my business page on Facebook at Stonehenge. And he wanted to manifest a red sports car. And I remember thinking, he hadn't done a whole load of work yet on his ego mind. He was starting to have more self-management. He was starting to be able to redirect and come on to a more connected, aligned, repeatable thought focus. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to say his name. I'm going to call him Mike. I don't know, Mike, if you can actually, if it's easy, if from the vibration you are now and the amount of alignment you have now, if you can manifest that red sports car, because
Mhm.
I'm not sure that that's not just a materialistic desire.
Right.
And I don't know that that's right, because I'm helping people all the time build their businesses,
Mhm.
especially as healers and coaches and energy medicine professionals, but also real estate agents, people who are selling yachts and boats, people who are like not just in that service role. So
Mhm.
I find that when the person's heart, I'm answering the question, I'm finally getting an answer. When the person's heart, thank you for the space, is more into it,
Mhm.
like he didn't really think he wanted the red sports car. He felt it
Mhm.
was too materialistic, and he also didn't feel like he deserved it.
Mhm.
So when your heart really wants you to have something, that's alignment, because in
Yes.
your heart is the connection to also to something higher than you.
Right.
So if you're sitting around and you're focusing on manifesting 20 new clients and you're burned out with your business, you are not going to manifest that 20 new clients.
Right.
So that's another way that people muff up manifesting. And again, I think it's
Right.
co-creation and we need to call it what it is rather than manifesting, because the law of attraction was a great start and
Mhm.
I used it for years. It's a great tool. God bless what they're doing.
Right.
But I've had so many people tell me that I only learned the how once I started working with you, Allison. So I won't
Mhm.
ever give instructions without an energy medicine clearing and activation to follow it up, because you can get advice anywhere, right? I want to
Mhm.
help people actually be able to experience what else is possible, that you
Right.
can actually have more synchronicities showing up, which build the subtle energy changing
Right.
into a new pattern, and you having more access to more light. And so then
Mhm.
you hit a threshold with being able to feel your shift. So there's
Mhm.
work in subtle energy that adds up, one clearing, another activation, a bunch of shifting energy from one clearing plus another shift plus another equals a more physicalized shift. But along the way, there's new
Mhm.
awarenesses in your own head there of what you've been doing, how you've been blocking yourself, what you could focus on now. And there's smaller synchronicities, typically like a bird, a number, somebody coming in and offering to help with, you want to now go on more podcasts, and it's a definite desire in your heart, and it would help your business and your service business. And so all of a sudden you have somebody send you an email saying, I'm a podcast booking agency and it's perfect for
Right.
you, right? So you
Right.
have to have more alignment, and these smaller manifestations happen along the way as you be.
Mhm.
So I also find people run out of patience, right? So as they're redirecting themselves with their focus and maybe
Right.
declaring on deservingness, and now they do have more deservingness to have what they want without a fight, but with ease, right? I don't have to fight for what I want. I don't have
Mhm.
to fight to get what I want.
Right.
I can do it with more ease. So that's all shifted, right? And so they're still impatient. They're expecting from a more egoic 3D physical world conditioning. You know, I go to IMAX theater and I'm surrounded by loud sounds and big bangs and bright colors and a huge screen. Everything
Yeah.
is big, not in the
Yeah.
subtle energy world and not in our internal world, but coming back into balance more with the yin and the yang, the divine masculine, divine feminine. Divine feminine is about the internal world, right? And so being able to see in the dark. So being able to hear your intuition and then hear your heart and what it actually desires. And so
Mhm.
it's not about just physicalized manifesting. It's about doing the interior work and projecting out onto the field, what I call the field of the Tao, like from qigong and tai chi and acupuncture. I call the field of unlimited possibilities. So you're able to project out onto the field of unlimited possibilities what you desire with more and more power the more internal work you do, but coming at it from the big conditioning we have that everything is physicalized and that's what's real, instead of I have to see it to believe it. It's more the I have to believe it to see it. And I'm not saying that you absolutely have to believe something before it can manifest, but
Mhm.
quantum physics is now our physics. It's not Newtonian physics anymore. Newtonian physics was the last paradigm's base, where you could predict a cue ball hitting a ball and it would go in that pocket, gravity based. We're in quantum physics now with quirks
Yeah.
and jumps and right. So it's a different vibrational backdrop we're living in now. So yes, you can have a bigger breakthrough and a bigger leap, but the subtle energy has an organic nature to it, like a plant growing or a child learning to crawl then walk. It's not
Mhm.
like if you are used to $16,000 a year and you're saying, I want to become a millionaire this year, there's a lot of space between those two. So maybe you should focus on doubling your income
Right.
intentions instead of that huge of a leap.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've had that before where when I was starting back in the 2000s, I'm like, okay, my price is 497 for a session, which for someone just starting online was pretty high. Even today, people probably say that's pretty high, but and then I just found crickets. I would have pe people here and there book the session, but not too much going on. But the minute I was willing to pare down, I've seen this historically with myself because I tend to be like everything's paused. I'll go for the biggest one, right? And then it's like, all right, I
Pen
gotta
in.
reel it back in now, and then when I get, then that's really easy, then, right? Then it has a sense of flow and ease in it. It's relatively easy because it's like, yeah, I could hit that target. I've been trying to hit that one way down there, right? So for me, like that, I've noticed that for myself. So people are like, I want to make millions. Now they're infused too with people. They're saying they did it, right? I did it, millions in 2 years or whatever, and overnight. And they don't hear all, again, they hear the surface story. They don't know the ins and outs of what was going on with those people, right?
And what they had to
So
do to come up with that money or
yeah, and
what
they might be living a
they willing to
nightmare
do it.
too. I always tell,
Yeah.
remind people that, not to poo-poo that people are having these success, because who knows, maybe they're happy. I don't know. I'm just saying you don't know what's behind it. Don't just trust like blindly, like this is a great thing. Like for them, we don't know. Like they're telling you it's a great thing. We don't know because until we start co-creating with source or how, whatever you want to call it. But still, I'm using your language for now, just for the show. Like, until we start doing that, what are we doing? We're pulling from our wounds, right? So,
Yeah.
um, they said I couldn't do it. I'll show them, right? Like, I'll show them I can do it. I'll do it better than anybody ever has
But
done
that's
it.
all will force, right? So that might be
Yeah,
the more
yeah,
typical form of ego that you were talking about before.
right,
And what I'm talking about is our our energy medicine, pardon me, our subtle energy system, which I keep doing this because I'm talking a lot about the chakras, but it also how it interacts with and interrelates with and gets run by our consciousness, right? They have the capacity to pull things towards us, to be more magnetic. It's not just
right,
about our will force and making
right.
things happen. That's that more of that balance with the divine
That's
feminine,
what I
divine
was trying
masculine.
to say with that, Dr.
Sure, I
Alison.
just wanted to add that in for the listeners. I know you know
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it's just like that's where people are having all these issues. They're saying they can manifest all kinds of things, but they're doing it from their wounds. Like, and
Yeah.
that eventually ends. Eventually, it ends. It ends in illness. It ends in death. And ends, I mean, in some kind of disaster. Right? And then they're burnt out or whatever, and they can't do it anymore because there's no they burn that out. Most people anyway. Sometimes they need more than one life. Apparently, some people
So
are
are
really
you talking about
strong.
the people who will say, I used to be able to manifest and I haven't been able to for,
Yeah, those two.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, there's
yeah,
plenty like that. And they were doing it because they were trying to prove to everybody they could, right? Like I've seen so many women, especially, I mean, men and women, but totally. But I'm just saying, like, I know you work with both men and women, but like a lot of the people you work with are women. And like I've seen that a lot with women. They're like, yeah, I was just trying to prove everybody wrong, And then it's like, okay, you did. And then when you get it done, it's like you're satisfying for a while, but then it's like, this ain't it, that kind of thing.
but that's a really good pattern to bring up. And that's going beneath the surface of the ego mind's front thinking, right? Like
Mm.
the idea, let's say you were brought up by a parent who told you you'll never amount to much.
Right.
Um, And so you're busy proving them wrong. But what does that lock you into? Like, do you really want to be pursuing the path you're pursuing? Because you're actually tying yourself to that parent and their projection of their stuff that they didn't clean or purify onto you. Right. So I have found so much of the time, like a great example too is people, women who come in and men who say they want to find a perfect partner. And so much of the time, particularly with women, I have found like they don't really even want a relationship. They actually want the freedom. And so that's
Mm.
actually what is aligned with their heart. And then they come to me whining. I hear it in my head in a way, honestly, whining, like, why haven't I found my soulmate yet? Why haven't I found, it's phenomenal to me, like the actual beliefs when you uncover them, like you could be at the surface level saying you want something, and then your actual system doesn't. So
Right.
it's I'm not saying that I work with all these people who don't know themselves all the time. I don't mean to come across like that, but it's phenomenal to me how like people can get busy proving somebody right or somebody wrong, and that other person, that parent or authority figure, is occupying their head instead of them
Mhm.
actually living from what they actually desire and
Right.
co-creating from there, which that's when manifesting or co-creating gets easier, is when you're actually going after what you desire.
Right. Yeah. And we're so programmed, the conditioned minds, the ego mind, with all these terms, but, you know, um, not to get technical anymore at this point in the show. But anyway, but that part, we're told, like for me as a guy, like you gotta be strong. You better get in that
Yeah.
weight, get those weights going. You better be the bigger muscles. You
Six to
got,
eight pack now. You got to have an 8 pack now.
right, right, exactly. You gotta take it to the nth degree. So I've had like another flare up with my back, and stuff. So it's like, okay, that's a whole other show we could talk about all this stuff. But like the bottom
Yeah.
line is, just to get cut to the chase is if I try to push through this pain, like, no, I need more muscle now, or if I just snap that condition out of my body instantly. Like just I know myself. I like it's like, okay, I'm gonna make it happen. It's gonna be gone, that pain right now. And yeah, but then what? You know, you didn't really get the healing. All you did is like numb it out, basically. I mean, you just numb that energy out, right? So we have to realize like there's such power in what you said. You when you deal with the things you can deal with at that deeper level, like now you just are in that divine harmonic, right? Of just like you
Yes.
are the magnet, you know, your things are
Right.
happening and I bet you've experienced so much of it, and your clients have, and you know I have, you know, too. But like it's just like where things just are like when you're in that flow, like everything is falling into your lap. I mean, increasingly anyway, right? I mean, there's always a challenge point somewhere, but for sure. But like there's like, oh my God, I just got, you know, somebody just reached out to me in LinkedIn, and yeah, it's a paid thing. Like I would have to pay them, but like it's an opportunity to speak, and I'm like, I don't usually get this, but you know, like but I know I had been calling out for these type of opportunities. So it even coming to me was like a sign. Yeah, okay, yeah, I put that out there, came to me
That's part of
pretty
the
quick.
steps I was talking about
Yeah,
as you shift.
yeah, because I could feel like, okay, it's available to me. Yes, I'm ready, you know. But if the energy is not even there for you yet, like it's not, you know, you have to do a certain amount of work sometimes on yourself in certain areas in order
Not
for those things
sometimes,
to
you
take
have to work on
place.
your inner self. You have to.
Yeah,
And I have to tell you this from my perspective in my first major being what it is. And then I went to study society. And my master's is in public administration, and public policy after a career in politics. The patriarchal government that we have been under for millennia in the West has a way of making us feel what you just said.
mm,
So
mm.
what did you just say?
So what I just
To
said,
go to the internal, we have to go deeper. So
yeah.
I know that the conditioning from a patriarchy that is male led, primarily all in the higher levels of decision making, is
Hmm,
about
hmm.
more this external and the surface. If we
Yeah.
had more females in positions of leadership, we would have, and I don't normally divide it into gender because each of us has masculine and feminine in us. But if we were more of a feminine country, like let's say some of the Latina countries or like Taiwan, then we would also be looking at our internal aspects
Hmm.
more easily.
Right.
But there has been resistance to us. I mean, the term woo woo, you know, I mean, that's created by projections from a patriarchally conditioned society, like to go inside and do that work. And and then for people who are in therapy, like it got accepted like in New York City, let's say in the major cities, but it's also guffawed at people who are in therapy in other non-major cities in the United States. So doing that internal work is not something that you got rewarded for in our society for the last hundreds and hundreds of years, but getting out there in the world and pushing and making stuff happen and producing measurable success with the kind of car, the kind of house that you have and where your kids go to college, that has been the emphasis. So I
Mm,
understand that there is a resistance that we're also evolving beyond towards doing that
mm,
internal work. And when somebody hears somebody say doing internal work, because I'll tell you what, it really leads to play. And I want to talk about play
mm.
for a second, because if the more that you are of the ego mind, the more that you are in your head, the more that you listen to your thoughts and don't question them, the more serious you're going to be and the less ability to play. Yeah.
Right.
So I know that I gauge any mentor that I ever work with, I gauge how much they laugh. My spiritual teachers throughout the years, I've always looked if they have humor, then they're connected. Yeah.
Mm, mhm.
So I also want to say that the idea of the struggle paradigm, if you're busy being distracted by struggling, then those who are in the top positions in power win.
Right.
So
They're like, yeah, thumbs up. Oh, yeah, you're right. It did the thumbs up. I'm like, yeah, it's like, yep, we're good. We're good there.
because you're going to be busy trying to survive, and I'm up here
Right.
occupying this position of power and making great use of it for my own personal gain.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So the level of ease that you're not accustomed to most likely is also changing.
Mhm.
And what I want to talk about is the when we're recording this, it was right after a full moon that we had, and it's the only full moon of this kind all year in the sign of Sagittarius. Now, I have a program my first level program that is lunar geared, full moon, new moon clearings and activations on recording, and then a monthly Zoom event. I'm only talking about that because I have spent so much time looking at the natural alignment of the vibrational backdrop we're living in, which our astrology creates from the cosmos.
Hmm.
And so we have the
Hmm.
Lions Gate coming up. And when this podcast comes out and airs, I'm launching a 3-day challenge to take advantage of the Lions Gate opening. So Sirius is known as the spiritual sun. Yeah, it's the brightest star in the sky. And I have gone to so many sacred Neolithic megaliths throughout the world, Stonehenge, Avebury, all over the world. And a lot of the ancient Neolithic monuments are geared towards Sirius. There is a whole tribe in Africa, the Dogon tribe, which has geared all of its ceremonies to the dog star, Dogon tribe, dog star, which is a nickname for Sirius. So the whole Lions Gate on 8/8, August 8th, is the peaking of the Sirius portal opening. And this is something I do a Lionsgate event every single year. People come to me and stay with me just for the Lionsgate events. It's my favorite because it's when the Nile would flood. They knew when the Sirius star appeared in the sky in ancient Egypt, that indicated, okay, dry season's over, flooding is about to happen for the Nile. And guess what that means? Harvest and abundance. So it's this incredibly exquisite golden light where, because it's a spiritual sun, there is so much transformative, yummy, high spiritual energy available during while this portal is open. So I'm going to be marrying that with not only the abundance aspect and the harvest aspect, but manifesting is also going to get easier because it's going to be more naturally in a higher vibration where you could call it in to be more in the co-creation ways that I was talking about earlier beyond just the manifestation. So I'm going to launch there's two different 3-day challenges, I think. The first one is the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th of July. So it's right after Freedom Day in the United States. And this first one is going to be focused on growing your spiritual light so that you can shift out of just manifesting and empower your co-creative capacities. And so
Yeah.
we have a lot. This 2025 is thought, it's a 9-year numerologically, and it's thought to be the completion of a cycle and a new beginning. So this turning of the bend halfway, a little bit beyond halfway through 2025 with this beautiful Sirius portal this year. And again, I work it every year, and there is something exquisite about this one this summer. I'm super excited about. So I just want you all to make great use of what's being made available for you to be able to evolve rather than again being about that struggle or hard work or difficult. Align more and have your subtle energy system and consciousness align more, and it will get easier.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Allison does have, I mean, I can be witness to this. I mean, not only have I seen countless testimonials, literally, like countless, I don't know how many hundreds of testimonials from people. I also have, talked to her students directly and seen her. I mean, I've researched, helping her with marketing stuff, a lot of it. So, but everybody that I've seen, the people, all these people I've been seeing are saying things like she was the missing piece or whatever, to whatever it was that they were needing, right? I don't want to get too in depth with it right now, but like she was the missing piece, like it's a common thing, like she said again and again and again. And so if you feel that if you feel you're ready to just honestly, I just decided to do some more work with Dr. Allison. So I'm going to be getting some direct work with her. And I told her, and this is not usual for me, I says, I actually feel some fear. And that's not normal for me. I actually usually I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do that program. Whatever. I'm usually that way or whatever it is. Like I'm usually with opportunities like that, whatever it is, I usually tend to be more like that. With this, I was like, I'm actually feeling this fear inside my sacral chakra. It's like, oh, I don't know. But no, I mean, right away, I'm like, yeah, that means this is totally a yes. That means 100 million% a yes then. And so if
Excellent.
you feel wobbly at all about like getting closer to Dr. Allison and maybe working with her through this challenge coming up, which we're going to put a link below for the challenge coming up, the manifestation one. Um, so you can find that below and take advantage of it. You know, just realize if you're feeling like some fear or like, oh my God, I don't know if I should even go close to this is because again of what Dr. Allison said earlier is true. You're feeling like this shift that's about to happen if you say yes. And you just gotta just be like, yeah, okay, then if I'm really freaking out, do it. Like I see with my clients too, by the way, but like with what I have them do, you're gonna learn how to do deeper work with, your intuitive psychic gifts and build your business, and you're gonna do it big. Oh my God, that's going to trigger people, right? So I'm going to walk them through those fears, but they get the big breakthrough when they do. So that's what I'm saying with Dr. Allison. If you're feeling like, man, I want to experience these breakthroughs, I could almost promise you, like you're going to be grateful. You're going to be so happy. You're likely to experience the breakthroughs right away or really soon by getting closer and working with Dr. Allison, especially too with this challenge coming up. And that's my take on it. You listen to your own deeper knowing, not just your, well, kind of feel this way or that way. Uh, do the bold thing. Trust from your boldness what to do next.
You guys, if you're
After.
not challenged, if you don't feel challenged with something, then that means you're not
Yeah,
growing,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Because the growth happens in challenge. Think of a seed sprouting, a butterfly coming out of its cocoon, you growing muscle. Get a
Hmm.
stretch. And
Yeah.
it's not that it's painful. It's actually quite enjoyable. A lot of
Oh
laughter,
yeah.
a lot of play.
Oh yeah,
But it's
absolutely.
just a natural reaction. It's not even a response of the ego mind, like, oh no, I'm going to get more discipline. Just like nobody likes more discipline.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get free, and it's like, well, I don't know what it's like to be free. Oh, yeah, that's why it's scary, right? Again, it's the unknown thing. Like, I don't know, I might not be protected then. No,
It
you're
is
going to
the
be more
exact thing.
protected than ever. Trust me, with Dr. Allison, you got more protection. Just with
Yeah.
what she'll bring to you, number one. But yeah, if you're working with her, you always have more protection for sure. Is how I look at it. Anyway, so take advantage of it. The manifestation challenge coming up below, and anything else you want to share about that before we wrap up today, Dr. Allison?
I actually, just briefly, I want to give you a chance. Do you have a question about any of this that you want to ask without a long response from me?
Sure. Um,
For you personally, Daniel.
you good catch. See, she's totally Hawkeye. She could hear me listening. Like, what would the audience have a question of? So me personally, what if okay, I'll say something outrageous. What if everything you said is just a crock of crap? How would we know better? Like ultimately, how would we know? How would we know?
You would know because you would start to, how would you know that everything I just said was a crock of crap?
Maybe
So,
that's not my question, but like it's just a thought that came to me. I'm like, what if it's all a bunch of stuff? Maybe it's not even true.
so if you look at if you were to take 30 minutes and sit down and observe your thoughts, you would see that your ego mind wants to keep taking you down a certain thought. And if you brought yourself even one time back to center into maybe your breath, maybe not, but just were able to pull off of a thought and come back, then you would know that what I'm saying is true.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Guys, yeah, just watch how your mind's trying to keep saying, but this is true, but this is true all day long, whatever it is, right? It just keeps insisting something's true. And some part of you knows it's not true, right?
You're going to
Like
get
this,
more quiet. Truth is going to make you quiet.
right, right, exactly, exactly. So just, yeah, that's the deal. So anyway, you are the real deal. I don't think you're a crock of crap or whatever. We could talk
Thanks,
this way
Danielle.
like that. You're the real deal. I mean, you really are. No, sincerely. But I mean, I think that's what the ego mind thinks. Like, maybe it was all a bunch of nonsense. What the hell are we even doing here, right? And not just you, like that question isn't even just about you or any single thing. It's just like this whole damn thing is a bunch of crap.
But that's
Everything.
that's one of its ways of resisting
Yeah, yeah,
change.
exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So we have to realize that and realize, the wonders that we can experience by allowing ourselves to get more free to
Get more free.
experience that freedom, and then we naturally will be aware of what our true, heart's desires are. Like, oh, okay, I'll have it, and that's where the
Get more
fun stuff
free.
comes in. Absolutely.
Get
Okay.
more free. Yes,
All
yes,
right.
yes. Get more free. It's time.
Awesome.
You can use the energies we're going to be living in to help yourself get more free. This is an incredible year. We're about to be entering an incredible summer. Please take advantage of it in one way, shape, or form, whether it's joining me with the 3-day challenge, whether it's working with Daniel, whether it's I don't just read books, like go lean into the challenge, you guys. You'll gain more in these energies than if you were to do it like, let's say, in February.
Yeah. And trust me, everybody that works with Dr. Allison, from that I've heard from, actually works with her, like follows through. They all love her and think she's done great things for them, in the process. So you guys
Thanks.
can't go wrong working with Dr. Allison. Absolutely.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you so much for being on today, Dr. Allison.
You have a joke to end with?
I'm not a joke guy, actually. I kid around a lot,
How about
but
that?
there we go. So,
Right.
no,
Thank
that's
you.
great. That's great. Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
All right. Yeah. So always fun with being with you, Dr. Allison. And thanks for everybody tuning in. Keep on tuning in, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time.
For listening to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.